Hello guys, and welcome back to the Tech Shack. Today we're going to be taking a little look at this. This is a little motherboard bundle you can find for a relatively cheap price, say €100, pounds or dollars. For that price on the new market, you can buy a beastly i3-10100F. And nothing else. That's it. One of the main reasons I stick to buying used anyways. As a whole, it looks pretty bland to say the least. However, when you look into it, you realize it's got some serious gaming and even workstation potential. Under this cooler, we have an Intel Core i5-4570. First manufactured back in the second quarter of 2013, this little chip proved you didn't necessarily need all the change in your pocket to satisfy all your computer needs. This bad boy started at $192, making it 2013's equivalent to the Ryzen 5 3600, a relatively new legend to when it comes to price to performance. Inside this little aging beast, you got 4 Haswell cores and threads, of course, clocked at a respectful 3.2 GHz. Not the speediest thing to ever exist, but even by today's standards, that's not too bad. If you did, however, have a serious need for speed, you were out of luck. There was no unlocked equivalent for this CPU. And if you did want overclocking capabilities, you'd be forking over a good bit more coinage to have them. No, it's not the Hulk of CPUs in this day and age, but for the price tag nowadays, you really can't fuss about it. Let's head on to the cooler keeping this chip cool. To be fairly honest, I've just done a bit of research about it, and to be fairly honest with you guys, it's really nothing special. It's called the Cooler Master Hyper TX3 Evo. Rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? You can find one new for about 30 quid, and I found that it keeps the i5 under 30 degrees Celsius at most times. That sounds great, but then you remember it's not a steaming hot chip. I will say though, it does look pretty good. Not decked out with RGB and the like, but acceptable. It's refreshing having something that looks decent without appearing to be a Christmas tree every once in a while. It's connected via a 4-pin fan header, and it's got 3 copper heat pipes down here, that on same on the other side, to help disperse the heat. 4 would have been nice, especially since it's only about a tenner off the Hyper 212 Black Edition, which in my opinion is a way better fan, but there's not much I can do about that, is there? Finally, let's move on to the motherboard, the piece that connects all other pieces together. Here we have an Asus H81M Plus, and that's a plus in words, not the sign. Also, the 8 looks like a B. The color of this board is about as odd as its name. It's rocking a usual black PCB, but it's also got quite a few prominent yellow, desaturated yellow accents, noticeably on the RAM slots, the PCIe cover, and the chipset cooler, although this one is, or the chipset heatsink, although this one is a bit more orangey. It's got a more orangey tint to it, but I don't know if you can see it perfectly on the camera, but it does definitely have a bit more of an orange tint on this one. Clearly, this chipset doesn't need that much cooling as it's all passive, which is nice. One of the most displeasing noises in the world is that of a tiny motherboard chipset fan screeching at you while you use your PC. Since launch, the H81M Plus hasn't been anything more than just a standard board. But unlike today, standard used to have the ability to overclock. Yes, not only could you overclock, but also at quite a cheap price. I couldn't find its launch MSRP, but today, these sell alone for about $50, pounds or euros. For that price, you get what ASRock calls 5 times protection, which basically means ASRock are saying the power control of this board is good. Now, I'm not saying this board has the most chunky and robust set of VRMs, but since ASRock was using the 5 times protection for marketing, I'm guessing there is something to be had there. This motherboard uses a 24-pin power connector for the motherboard and an 8-pin right here for the CPU, which means you shouldn't have any compatibility issues when it comes to your power supply. Here, it says we get GPU boost, which basically turns your GT 710 into a 3090. Clearly, ASRock were ahead of their time. In all seriousness though, I tried to find info on it, and I truly couldn't find anything. Really shows how much it matters. Probably doesn't do anything at all. Finally, Let's take a look at what this motherboard is packing. Oh, and I almost forgot, it came with a single 8GB stick of DDR3 RAM right there. Obviously 2 4GB sticks would have been a bit better and performed a bit better because of dual channel, but what can I do? Actually, I could have taken 2 sticks out of my personal build, but I was feeling kind of lazy, so I didn't. Here we have 2 RAM slots for the RAM, of course. That's the standard for a board of this caliber. Next to them we have the PCIe 16X slot for the graphics card and 3 PCIe 1X slots for whatever you need. Over here we have got 4 SATA ports, which I'd say is enough for the average person, 2 of them being SATA 2 and 2 of them being SATA 3. Now, let's move on to the back. And there waiting for us was a pretty nice rear I/O. Here we have got the 2 PS2 ports, which both of them I've never used in my life, an HDMI port for which you can use if you're not pairing this bundle with a graphics card. Same goes with the VGA and DVI ports here. Next to them we have the USB, 4 of them which are 2.0 and 2 of them are 3.0. Also there's a USB 3.0 case slot. If your case supports USB 3.0, then you can have more. And as we all know, too much USB 3.0 doesn't exist. Next to them here is the Ethernet jack, or Ethernet port, whatever you want to call it. So you can have access to the internet. And also down here we have the audio jacks. Pretty good rear I/O if I do say so myself. So what are my final thoughts on this bundle? Well, personally I think it is a great starter bundle for anyone who just wants to throw together a nice and cheap PC. Once you plop a graphics card on top, you got a pretty decent gaming machine, and potentially a workstation too. So definitely keep a watch out for a bundle like this online if you're looking for a bundle like this on a budget. And on that note, I hope you have a good night and I hope to see you next time.